shot here in Memphis. When Dr. King went to Memphis, I think he knew it was the end. And he wanted to be identified with the poorest of the poor, and the sanitation workers were it. For him, that was the unfulfilled part of his mission. You picked up with poverty. After 50 years of carrying the torch, I'm ready to pass it on. John Bryant and Operation Hope has been blessed, and they're reaching down to those, the least of these God's children. You've now opened offices in Memphis.
Yeah.
And in many ways are carrying on that same work. I see this as picking up where we left off.
Every time you say that, I'm uncomfortable.
You should be. That's a heavy burden.
Yeah, I know that some of this work is coming through me and I have a responsibility, but I didn't think I had the moral fiber, the character of you and Dr. King.
Well, maybe we didn't either.
Yeah.
You don't know what you got till you have to make a choice. Economic rights is the new movement, and it's not in the streets, but in the banks. John Bryant has a very interesting approach. Being at that airport and being drawn back to the fact that I did not want Dr. King to go there in the first place, and realizing that he went there to his death knowingly, I think, but his death was only the beginning of his mission. And 50 years later, the income gap continues to grow.
Yes.
John Bryant and Operation Hope has developed an approach to America that starts with the least of these God's children, but not by going to the government for a handout or for even an aid, but by working with the local bankers. You all are really what we're talking about.
The Bible said the poor will always be with us, and so far it's been right. And that doesn't mean we have to stop working on the problem.
Tiffany White wasn't poor, but already her life has improved because of lessons learned from Operation Hope.
Budgeting myself, changing the way that I think for spending money, and just putting a savings plan together to be able to save.
Now she has one more goal, and it's important.
Improving my credit score, because one of my goals was to be over 700, and I'm only a few points away.
You got to have a credit score, and you've got to be able to go to the bank and be respected as a full-fledged citizen.
The way you level the playing field today is a credit score.
She hopes to become a first-time homeowner, and the bankers want to help Tiffany White and others like her.
Credit scores are the ticket. I mean, you really can't participate in the great American recovery and the opportunities that are abundant in this country if you don't have a good credit score.
The credit score is sort of the lifeblood of financial success.
The difference between being poor and being middle class is a credit score of 700 or better.
I loved this because it was uncomplicated. It's a number, and you can move the number. My mother's got a credit score of 840. She's not black, she's green. When she goes to the computer and pushes that credit application, they don't even look at her race. They just say yes.
Yet 44% of Americans have a credit score below 620. If I had to choose between a college education and a 700 credit score,
Yeah,
I'd do better with a 700 credit score.
great. That's
And that's a lot cheaper.
That's a really great observation. That the correlation to success will be higher with the credit score than the college education.
Credit scores are so important. They can not only end poverty, but in the process, eliminate crime.
That's where all the crime is. Literally, I can take a 500 credit score anywhere in America and wrap it around a zip code that has an explosion of everything negative you can imagine. And conversely, a 700 credit score neighborhood doesn't riot.
We can not only work ourselves out of poverty, but we can work our neighbors out of poverty, our communities out of poverty, the world out of poverty. And Martin Luther King is alive today in you, in this pastor, in this congregation. And I thank you. God has blessed you. And say amen for his blessings. Tiffany found help unexpectedly in nearby Senatobia. Tiffany found help unexpectedly in nearby Senatobia, Mississippi, the small town where she lives. At the local branch of First Tennessee Bank, signs promise there's hope inside. This is community outreach, the likes of which you've never seen. Thanks to a remarkable nonprofit organization, appropriately named Operation Hope. How'd you get involved with Operation Hope?
Well, my friend, actually, she came to the class and she told me about it and I came.
Hope centers like this help people from all walks of life achieve what I call financial literacy, a necessary understanding of money and managing money that's almost never taught in school, with programs aimed at eliminating poverty simply by raising credit scores. Programs that help people to do it on their own.
And that's the budget. We're gonna write down everything that you spend your money on, okay? And I'm gonna go through your budget and I'm gonna just politely with my pen, mark out those things that could be wiped out.
First step of just admitting, hey, I need some help and I'm here to help you. I'm here to walk you through, the steps that it takes to get back on track financially.
But suppose you haven't ever been on track.
Can help them get on track if they've never been on track before. Yes, sir.
That's why First Tennessee Bank provides free space to Operation Hope at a number of its banking locations, says the bank's young and aggressive CEO and president, Brian Jordan.
What we need is a strong economic community and economic fabric, and that means everybody has to do well.
That sentiment is echoed by Bill Rogers, chairman and CEO of Operation Hope's other major banking partner, SunTrust.
In our institution, we're fundamental believers. If you build your community, you build your bank. You sort of have to start with that framework, and building your community is key.
Literally building the community. Memphis is a city undergoing rapid change and an impressive rebirth. Take, for example, Crosstown Concourse, an enormous deco high-rise built in 1927 by Sears and abandoned in the 90s. It stood vacant for a quarter of a century.
This building was dormant for 20 years. So this 1 million square feet of building became an eyesore in the community, and everything
We got
around
one
it,
in Atlanta.
everything around it died.
But today, the president of this SunTrust market, Johnny Moore, says Crosstown Concourse is revitalizing a blighted neighborhood thanks to a $200 million makeover.
And with SunTrust, we saw this as an opportunity in Memphis to bring this building back to life.
There are retail stores and restaurants, 5 floors of office space, hundreds of apartments, and hope inside. That's not just a play on words. An important component of this extraordinary urban revival is SunTrust Bank's Financial Confidence Center. Financial Confidence Center.
It's not a SunTrust Bank branch, it's the SunTrust Financial Confidence Center.
You can't get change for a 20 here, but you can get a different kind of change. Tell me what hope inside is now.
You want to go from financial stress to financial confidence, we want to help you free of charge.
Anybody in this neighborhood
Could come in this building and get this financial literacy training and the skills they need to gain financial confidence.
There is hope inside a number of SunTrust branches in the region as well.
And we have a great opportunity with Operation Hope, particularly physically located in our branches. We get to be the bank that says how versus the bank that says no.
It's a misnomer to think that banks appreciate the opportunity to say no to people. It doesn't do us any good.
The larger you grow the economy and the more inclusive it becomes, the more successful it is, both at top and bottom.
You can't see the community divide between the haves and the have-nots and not pay attention to the have-nots and think you're going to be strong long-term.
How do you get people out of poverty? First Tennessee's Brian Jordan asked me to stop by a meeting of the bank's Foundation Advisory Board.
How do you think we go about solving for this poverty issue?
Financial literacy. You don't have to have a degree from a college or university to be economically secure and independent. But you do have to have a knowledge and a self-confidence. You've got to be able to know how to handle money. Truth be told, it took me a long time to learn the very lessons being taught by Operation Hope. A lot of people assume I'm rich, but the fact of the matter is I've always gotten by on very little. And more than once or twice, I was almost in the poorhouse myself. At the age of 86, I still work for a living. And yes, it wears me out. It was what I didn't know that I didn't know. I knew how to save. I knew how to invest, but I didn't know about credit scores. I didn't know about the details of money. And I had been a congressman, an ambassador to the United Nations. Oh, and mayor of Atlanta. But you know what? Not one of those lofty positions provided me with retirement benefits, not a penny. The last job I had a pension with was the National Council of Churches in 1960. And I left there to come to work with Martin Luther King. My salary with Dr. King was $500 a month. It was a little more than 60 years ago that a group of ministers under the leadership of Martin Luther King came together to form the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC for short. They selected as their motto not just race, but the triple evils of race, war, and poverty. And they devoted themselves to redeeming the soul of America. Now, this America that they were talking about, I don't know whether we remember anymore, but the America we were talking about was one nation, indivisible, under God, with liberty and justice for all. We focused largely on race and war. Poverty was next on the list, and Dr. King wanted to up the ante, to expand the movement and use what he called militant nonviolence to pressure Congress into passing an economic Bill of Rights.
We made a decision which I wish to announce today.
As usual, I was at Dr. King's side on December 4th, 1967, at what may have been his most controversial press conference ever.
The Southern Christian Leadership Conference will lead waves of the nation's poor and disinherited to Washington, D.C. next spring.
We had no way of knowing that Dr. King would live to see only the first 2 weeks of that next spring. He was determined to turn reform into revolution, knowing full well that it put him in the crosshairs.
Is risky, but not to act represents moral irresponsibility. So I feel that we've got to do this.
The Poor People's Campaign, as it came to be known, had been hotly contested, even within the ranks of SCLC. We were tired, and many of us didn't agree with the timing, but his mind was set. And so we followed his orders and started to prepare for an epic showdown on behalf of all of America's underprivileged, not just African Americans.
We want to spend 3 solid months organizing the whole nation around this matter, jobs and income, and mobilizing for our move toward Washington. So we feel that the 1st of April will probably be the time that we will move.
But it was on the 4th of April that an assassin's bullet killed Martin Luther King Jr. In the recent past, I've been back to Memphis more times than I'd like. Somewhere that you said came from. Various events commemorating the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination have brought me together with my old friend and comrade, Jesse Jackson.
Whites, they felt there was no great value in the Poor People's Campaign.
Jesse says Dr. King was very discouraged, very run down, and I would have to agree.
So I thought about quitting. Maybe I've done as much as I could do in 13 years.
But he changed his mind and said,
We turned the mountains into a bus. We're going to Memphis and on to Washington to focus on economic justice. You thought members were a great example. He had working, poor people who were sanitation workers, whose work cleaned up the diseased garbage.
He was trying to point the movement in the direction of economic security and stability.
This is your 1-minute wellness break. Hi, I'm Nicole Marie, a wellness practitioner based in Washington, D.C. The two modalities of wellness I support you in are spiritual and emotional. Today, I'm going to show you how to bring this into your everyday life, beginning with breath. Let's get started. Take a nice, slow inhale in through the nose, over the throat, expanding your lungs to full capacity. Hold here. Now slowly exhale, releasing any tension in the body, anything that no longer serves you. Let's try that once more. In through the nose, over the throat, expanding your chest to full capacity. Hold here. And slowly releasing anything that no longer serves you.
Hello, everyone. I hope you had great sessions. I'm sure you did. And we are hoping you're enjoying your lunch. Enjoy that. But we're going to keep this program going. We have some phenomenal people coming in, and you can eat and listen and learn. This is a learn and lunch situation. We're excited about that. Now, for those of you at home, we want you to listen to the forums. So you can go to iHeart Radio, the iHeart app, I should say, and search for Hope Global Forums, and then go to the live part. And we're going to get started, I believe right now, with a very special guest. And this is somebody I just met who is always interested in talking about what's going on with us. And I understand we're going to take a few minutes before we bring them out. So I'll let you continue to eat for a little bit as we wait on him. But I was introduced as a person who is a journalist who works at Georgia Public Broadcasting. And one of the things I do is focus on politics. And I am the host of the Lawmaker Show that comes on during the Georgia General Assembly. And the last 2 weeks, I've been at the Capitol, and we've been focusing on the redistricting. Well, coming up in January, we're going to look at more, all about the laws in the state. The redistricting part of it all had to do with what happened in the 2020 census, of course. The 2020 census is a part of our lives now. It affects everything we do, including the redistricting. And the guest you're going to hear from is with the U.S. Census Bureau. These numbers are so important. I know when we're talking about taking your census, getting ready for things, that we all kind of, well, okay, I'll check the boxes that they asked me to fill out. But they mean something in your lives every single day because they affect who, at the very least, what we dealt with at the Capitol last week, who represents you and why. So when you go to that ballot box, the decision on who you might vote for has to do with the census. And so we're going to hear from him and hear about what's going on with the census. And I'm excited about that because it is something for years I ignored, like many of you probably do. And now it is a chance to really understand the importance of all of that. Actually, I know that there's at least one lawmaker here who was at the Capitol helping us with this last week. So I'm going to find out in a minute, because I know you don't want me rambling on. Although I can talk. As my dad used to say, I can talk to a rock and have a conversation. It is fine. Totally fine with me. I'm okay just to hear myself talk. The good news is, I think our special guest is ready. The good news for you. Please welcome the IRS Chief Taxpayer Experience Officer, Mr. Kenneth Corbin, and Operation Hope Governing Board Member, Stephen Ryan.
So, good afternoon. I'm Steve Ryan. I've been with Operation Hope. This is my 23rd year as a volunteer. And it's a privilege to be with Operation Hope and to have watched it grown into everything it's become. And it's because of you here. So I'm going to ask you one question. It's the only question that I'll ask you. If I said that the two certainties in life are death and taxes, we're going to give you a quick talk on taxes. First of all, let me introduce Ken Corbin. Ken is the Wage and Investment Commissioner of the IRS. He runs 40% of the largest civilian agency in government. Give a hand for Ken Corbin. Ken is also has been the Chief Experience Officer for the IRS, and more importantly, he's on the board of Operation Hope's Southeast region, and he's one of us at Operation Hope. So let me just set up Ken's remarks by saying the two things that we're doing. First of all, Ken and I are opposite ends of a public-private partnership between the tax industry, which I represent, and the IRS and the taxpayers, which Ken represents. The first part of it is Free File. We are giving away free tax preparation for everybody in America who has an AGI of 78,000 or less. There are a lot of people in your companies that can use that free service, and you have a choice of the companies. It's on the IRS website. We've done 70 million free returns. That's worth $2 billion. So that's point one, public-private partnership of IRS and industry. The second is we did something to stop identity theft. In 2015, there were 1.5 million cases of taxpayers whose data was stolen at a company. That might be a healthcare company. It might be a store. It might be their bank. Oh, I shouldn't say that in here. It could be stolen, and that identity was used to do their taxes and get their refund. It is now under 100,000 a year, and the man who headed that program, taking it from 1.5 million to 100,000 a year, is Ken Corbin. So, Ken, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. And thank you, Hope Global Forum. I want to make a case for optimism, because a lot of times we block fear, blocks our own blessings. And so what I want the Global Forum family to hear from us today at the IRS is that service is in our name. And the way our government works is that a lot of benefits come through tax administration. That means in order to pay for it, you have to have a way to give it. So when you think about the IRS, I want you to take a moment to be sure and visit. We have a table out in the main area. I want you to take a moment to learn the laws and how to start your small business, how to look for those credits that are out there that are available to you. And I want you to take advantage of the opportunity that Free File offers for all of our taxpayers. And we have a program, we talked about Free File. We also have a program called Free File Fillable Forms, which will allow anyone, regardless of your income, to be able to file your taxes electronically for free. And protecting yourselves, protecting your customers, protecting your clients is important when it comes to identity theft. We've talked about the importance and the significance of protecting your worth, your identity, and doing that by making sure that you have the proper protections, either from an identity protection pin, which is offered by the IRS, to make sure that when you do your filings, you're able to do that. But we did just want to take a few moments up here on stage, at the best hour, obviously, to do it, which is when everyone is eating, and talk to you all about the benefits of not blocking your blessings. Get educated. Come to the IRS with questions that you may have about nonprofits, small business, or even individuals. We are here to make sure that we can help translate and explain the very complex tax laws that our country has in an easy to understand and digestible way. And so with that, I want to encourage you all to make sure that you do take that opportunity again. I myself will be back there at the table, and I will be walking around this room as well. Stop me if you have a tax question, an experience question. We are here to be at your service. Service to one, service to all. And I want to thank our Free File partners for their partnership.
So let me just say one thing. 96% of the U.S. government's budget has to come from the money that IRS collects. So when you hear people politically demonize the IRS, remember, to have an ordered society, we have to pay our taxes, and then it goes to pay the social welfare benefits that other people receive. It makes the warships that save our country's borders and security. It does all of the things in the SNAP program. So we have an ordered society because IRS collects the money and then it gets dispensed out. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Global Hope. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. All right. We talked about the IRS. Now we're going to get to that census data and find out more. Please help me in welcoming a very, very special guest. He's the director of the U.S. Census Bureau, the Honorable Robert L. Santos, and Mr. John Hope Bryant.
Hello, hello. Are you having fun this afternoon? Fantastic. Okay, the director's taking a picture of you. So, I changed places. Normally I sit there because society is changing places. My great-grandmother was a slave. My grandmother was a domestic. My mother was an hourly worker, and her mother didn't tell her that she loved her. My mother told me she loved me every day of my life. I have many problems today, but self-esteem is not one of them because she told me she loved me. My great-grandfather was a slave. My grandfather, born in 1871 in Aberdeen, I think it was Aberdeen, Mississippi, I believe it was, 1871, probably born into slavery, certainly sharecropper. My father, Johnny Will Smith, mother's Juanita Smith. Johnny Will Smith was a small business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a genius, I'm role modeling. It's the luck of the gene pool, but it's also being counted, being present, being available, being respected, having share of voice. And I didn't get here by myself. And we're sitting here with the director of the Census Bureau, and this is not going to make, again, complete sense to you immediately, but bear with me just a moment. This is extremely important because slaves were not counted. We were property. And Situations have changed. Life has shifted. We've launched about 3 years ago the Hope Financial Wellness Index. I call it the Hope 700 Credit Score Index as a vernacular. And you can pull it up on your phone. You tell me your zip code, I'll tell you how you're living. We have mapped with the power of Experian data every zip code in America by credit score. And we found a lot of things, Director. One of the things we found is if you live in a 580 credit score neighborhood, black or brown urban or white rural, does not matter. You live in a 580 credit score neighborhood. You live to 61 years old. You don't get Social Security until you're 65. Hold on. 15 minutes away from that 580 credit score neighborhood, Director, is a 700 credit score neighborhood, and you live to 81. 81 to 96. You live 20-year longer lifespan, 15 minutes apart from a 580 credit score neighborhood. I'm taking the emotions out of it, replacing it with data. Here's some more data for you. There's never been a riot in a 700 credit score neighborhood in all of America's history. Because 700 credit score neighborhoods don't riot, they go shopping. Here's what happens in a 580 credit score neighborhood. Now, I want you guys to keep me honest here. We're going to have some church here. If I'm wrong, I want you to stop me. In agreement? Okay, check it out. 580 credit score neighborhood. Doesn't matter whether you're black and brown urban or white rural. Director, you're about to witness a little magic here. Here's what you see. A check casher next to a payday loan lender, next to a rent-to-own store, next to a title lender, next to a liquor store, next to a pawn shop, with a church down the street, trying to make you feel a little bit better once a week. That's your neighborhood therapist. And by the way, I'm gonna pick on black people for a minute. People say, I don't want to go to a psychologist. I don't want to go to a shrink. Somebody might think you're crazy. If you're black in America and don't think you're a little crazy, you are crazy. Can I get an amen? So the church is a way that we release pressure. We go in there, we hoop and we holler and we sing and we praise, because church was the only thing, Director, coming up in slavery, the only place you could actually communicate, sing, express yourself. The only freedom was church. So we use that today as a way to express ourselves, to release some pressure. And here's what I know. You go from a black and brown urban neighborhood to a white poor neighborhood, white rural, 580 credit score, you see the same thing. Check casher, payday loan lender, rent-to-own store, title lender, liquor store, pawn shop, church down the street. The only difference is how we riot. Poor people who are black and brown riot in the streets, and my poor white friends riot in the ballot box. They're frustrated. And we have got to do something other than be frustrated. We've got to be optimistic. We got to find a reason to have hope, a reason to move forward together. And the reason that today is so powerful is that we found in these 580 credit score neighborhood is, and the director already knows this, but you may not, and we're about to have some magic here. The reason that he's here is I'm making a business case for us, not an emotional case, not a charity case. You don't want to hand up. You don't want to hand out. You want to hand up. It's the James Brown version of affirmative action. Open the door, I'll get it myself. But you can't do that without the data. So we found, Director, that in these neighborhoods, yes, the one of the indexes was the age by which you leave this earth, 61 years on average. 580 credit score neighborhood, 60% of them graduate high school. 700 credit score neighborhood, 96% graduate from high school. 580 credit score neighborhood, 30 to 40% home ownership rate, sometimes 28% ownership rate. 700 credit score neighborhood, 70% home ownership rate. 2-parent households in a 700 credit score neighborhood. 1-parent household in a 580 credit score neighborhood. None of this is surprising you, right? Because not only are you a director, you have a diverse background, so you get this. But all of the negative things that we are frustrated with, crime, obesity, diabetes, depression, help me out, broken households, low GDP, gross domestic product. As a result of that, 580 credit score, high cost of credit, which means you have no choice in many cases but to go be into an illegal enterprise, because the only way you can make a profit if you're paying 30% for your cost of money is to do something, with all due respect, illegal. I mean, what do you think a drug dealer is, if not an illegal, unethical entrepreneur? He may be dumb, but he's not stupid. He understands import, export, finance, marketing, wholesale, retail, customer service, security, territory, and logistics. Can I get an amen? And all a gang leader is a frustrated union organizer. I'm giving you guys some good stuff. It's going right over your heads. My point is, there's genius and brilliance in these communities, but we've got to lift them up in a way that allows them to be seen, counted, and that matters. And so people sometimes, Director, want to pick on black and brown people as if we're just like the only problem. First of all, the largest group of poor people in this country, he knows this, are poor whites. There are more poor whites than poor anybody else. But where do you think NASCAR came from? Moonshine running in the Appalachian Mountains. I'm dead serious. They were running from the police, realized it was not a long-term business plan, realized that it was illegal and wouldn't last, but they were good at driving. So they stopped the moonshine running, start driving on the beach, on the dirt, in the highways, and literally 5 generations later, that's a multi-billion-dollar industry called NASCAR. We can have rainbows after storms, but we have got to get the data underneath us, and we have got to start mapping these communities for something other than a problem. And so to have you here, 4 generations from slavery, in some cases 3 generations from slavery in my family alone, means it gives enormous dignity to us. And I thank you for being here because, well, over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
That was your introduction.
Yeah, where's my question? Well, hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come to Hope Forum and to speak and to share stories like you have shared. They're incredibly important. Today, I'm here to sell the value of the census data in helping to inform communities, to add value to communities. You know, we come every, year 7 or so, we do outreach to communities and we say a decennial census is coming up. We need it. You need it for your representation, for federal funding, et cetera. And what we found, especially because of the pandemic, was that we needed to have a continuous relationship with all communities, especially communities of color, communities that have been historically undercounted, because we know that we cannot complete our mission to provide communities with the data they need to improve, to do economic development, community needs assessments. We can't do it alone. We have to have this community of the whole approach. So community of the whole approach. Right. That includes Census Bureau, comes local communities, elected officials, nonprofit organizations. We all need to come together with the common goal of recognizing the value that data bring in understanding where we've come from, where we are now, but most importantly, how we need to get to the next level. That's why I'm here. I'm here to basically say thank you for all the efforts that you've made in terms of helping with the 2020 census and more generally with getting the message out of the value of the data. We are now continuously reaching out to express the value of the data to see if we can come to you, to come to your community, show you. We have data dissemination experts. We have online census academies to show you how to access the data, to solve your problems, to apply for grants, to do whatever it is that you need to do to understand your community. Because after all, we are becoming an increasingly and beautifully diverse nation. It is our biggest asset. And the train has left the station. Society is acculturating to us. There's no choice. We have information to help advance that in a real way and to make communities better.
And I want to come back to something you said specifically, but is it not true that today we're announcing something special?
You tell me.
Aren't we incorporating U.S. Census data? I mean, these government leaders, they have all the power in the world. I mean, they don't know how to drop a mic. This guy is he's a director. Let me tell you something. This is how you get your money. If you're a mayor, if you're a county official, if you're the governor, if you don't count, you don't count. Literally, this is how money gets allocated. Am I right?
That's true.
How money gets allocated. He's so humble. This is how money. So black people weren't counted because we would count too much going back a couple years ago. So today he's just so humble. He's just sneaking it in here. He's allowed the U.S. Census now has an agreement with Operation Hope to embed U.S. Census into the Hope Financial Wellness Index starting in 2024, I believe. So thank you very much. And I know you're the government, you gotta be non-emotional and all that kind of stuff. But I'm excited.
I'm naturally a very calm guy, but if anyone who knows me knows that I'm incredibly passionate about public service, and I'm incredibly passionate about showing how the Census Bureau is living its values of objectivity and transparency, scientific integrity, and independence too.
Yes.
And its efforts coming together with Operation Hope of showing the public data that's available that we can infuse into existing platforms that can create new power and new insights in ways that wouldn't otherwise exist.
So this has never been done before. There's never in the history of this country been a mapping of you. Now every zip code in America will have several overlays of objective data that can inform and inspire investors, bankers, employers, city leaders, to allow them to want to heat map for the positive growth of a neighborhood. They have the data now to be able to act on that. Soon now, census data. And the census data, people understand, every agency in the government came out of the Treasury Department, every one. There was the White House, Department of War, 1860s, and then the Treasury Department. Well, one of the Treasury Department offices was a census, and weights and measures, labor, if you think about it, housing, health, commerce,
Census Bureau, commerce,
health and human services, all these agencies, it all deals with money. Well, census is a way you allocate resources, but you can't allocate what you can't count. So if people are undercounted, if they're hiding from the data, they're actually starving their community. Is that right?
That's correct.
If you're hiding from the data, you're starving your own community because the public leaders are not going to get the resources to then invest in your neighborhoods. So you mentioned you mentioned the demographic changes. 40% of this country today is black and brown. It's never been that's never been the case in the history of this country.
It's only going to go up too.
It's only going to go up. And what people are, no one wants to admit it, but what people are scared to death of is if minorities, and this may be the most sort of well-meaning person on the planet, no racism, whatever, they're concerned about their wallet. If minorities are growing up in population, people with wealth are getting older, and the majority population becomes a majority population that are at the moment creating GDP, a lot of GDP. The concern is the country, if this group does not become financially literate and don't become contributors, the whole country in 34 years becomes poor. I'm just going to say it. Nobody says it. I'm just telling you that's what the concern is. So it's really not black or brown, or it's not white or black or red or blue. It's green. It's economic. If we can coalesce this data and make the case, we would make the case because you're objective, make the case with the data, these are viable communities, and then use the power of financial literacy to empower people, it then makes sense that all boats should rise.
That's correct. We need to take this data and use it to leverage the improvement of communities of all color. And so that's what we're about. That's why we're happy to partner with you and any other organization. There's all this rich data. You didn't mention economic data. We have publicly economic data, available economic data to place on top of any platform that anyone has to add value to in terms of economic insights, looking at new entrepreneurship, putting in factories, whatever. So lots of tools exist. We're happy to share them with you and strengthen our partnership.
And folks can reach, this is a data that's available by going to the census website?
Yes, data.census.gov. It will provide that information.
Thank you for your partnership. We're honored to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome to the Hope Global Forum.
It was an honor. Thank you, man.
My honor.
All right, another session where we learned a lot. I'm excited about our next guest because the trucks that are brown with the people wearing brown are in my neighborhood and at my home a lot. Our next guest is an incredible leader and driving one of the world's most dynamic companies right here in Atlanta. So please give a big round of applause for the Chief Executive Officer of UPS, Carol Tomé, and Operation Hope Chairman, John Hope Bryant.
Now, you guys are spoiled. You're so used to seeing CEOs and billionaires, whatever. The CEO of one of the largest companies in the world with a woman CEO. She walks out here. What in the, there you go. That's the love.
Thank you.
So honored to have you.
Oh, John, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Our pleasure. UPS comes from the tradition of entrepreneurship. Yes. Casey was a dreamer with a bicycle route, basically. He was the founder of UPS, as I understand it, you correct me if I'm wrong, was really delivering packages on a bicycle. I think it's Jim Casey. In the early 1900s, 1907.
That's right.
And
18 years old with a $100 loan.
Really?
Yep.
Do you know who the $100 loan was from?
A neighbor, I think.
A neighbor? We had next door CEO yesterday, is appropriate, Sarah Fryer. And that business was doing well, but then it got a technological boost through a joint venture. He met, as I understand it, Henry Ford, or one of the Ford, somebody from the Ford company, and the concept of the automobile was merged with the concept of delivery, and this merging created the modern delivery company. We now call it a logistics company because now you're doing air and
We are.
freight and air and sea and all this kind of stuff. And you're almost a technology company as well. We'll maybe talk a little about that. But people don't realize that big businesses were once small ones.
Right. It's the foundation of our country. It's what makes our country great.
Yes.
We are driven by entrepreneurs.
Yes. And you know more about this than most CEOs, Carol, because you also worked in a small bank.
I did.
You were a banker.
I
Tell
was.
everybody a little bit about that.
And I was the daughter of a community banker.
That's
and
right.
what an
Where?
amazing experience in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, a town of 3,000 people. When I was a little girl, I think there's about 10,000 people now, but it was an amazing experience. And my dad, I will tell you, he was maybe a better person than a banker, because he was dedicated to making sure that people could continue to drive their business no matter what came their way. So some of the loans maybe weren't so good, but he was really committed to the community and doing the right thing.
He was invested in the people.
In the people.
The people were the product.
They were. They were.
We're going to come back to that. So a little bit of daddy seeped into you. So you went from being a banker, and as part of your career evolution, you ended up at Home Depot.
I did.
And what'd you do there?
Well, what an amazing experience. Almost 25 years at Home Depot. I started in 1995 when the company had 400 stores and about $14 billion in revenues, and I was the treasurer at the time. I ended up becoming the CEO in 2001 and did that job for nearly 19 years.
Wow.
Until I retired for a moment.
Yeah. and of course you figure, okay, I don't need another thing to do, and this incredible opportunity comes up at UPS, and of course you couldn't say no. And so glad you said yes.
It's an honor and a privilege to serve that company.
So now let's connect the dots.
Okay.
You come to this company, and by the way, we have a Hope Inside in the headquarters office.
We do.
At UPS to help their drivers, to help their employees. I want to thank Nicole, who is one of your leaders, and Joe and all the heroes and sheroes. And you also work with us during disasters.
Yes.
Hope Inside disaster. You're helping us in Maui right now. All the disasters that happened are Hope Inside Disaster Division. You guys have always been there with logistics support and monetary support to help us help communities. We also help your employees to get financial well-being and financial wellness. Ed, our friend Ed, talked a little bit about that before this session.
So we call it Hope in the Hub. Thank you for that.
It's called Hope in the Hub.
Hope in the Hub. Thank you for that.
Honored, and hopefully we can get into that. But I really was wanting to salute you about something you don't get enough credit for. I think what you did 3 months ago is on the level of what Henry Ford did in the early 1900s. Henry Ford paid his workers enough to buy the automobiles they were making, and in so doing created the modern middle class. Now, he wasn't trying to do that. He was trying to have the best business plan. He had this new manufacturing process. Nobody liked it. Nobody wanted to work it. So he had to create a situation where people were wanted to come to work. It just so happened everybody won. It was alignment. You did something, and again, I don't think you woke in the morning and said, I want to, be the news story for this cycle, but you were forced to have a conversation that you've mastered. And before I get to the drop the mic moment, it is a true drop the mic. Again, literally, you changed the game. Let me start by saying my mother worked at a union shop.
Mm.
But my mother also understood that she had to make sure that her employer was successful.
Mm.
Because if the employer wasn't successful, she wasn't going to have a job.
Right.
And what we have got to stop doing is we've got to stop having unions and management at loggerheads fighting over each other, trying to cut each other's throat. I mean, some of my friends say, oh, I hate rich people. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
You hate rich people until you become rich. Am I talking to myself? What you hate is a game system.
Yeah.
What you hate is a system that is stacked against you. What you hate is that somebody is succeeding and they don't deserve it, and you deserve it and you don't. That's what you really hate. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
So let's knock it off. You want to be successful. Well, who wouldn't want to be if you aspire to that? And so let's get that out of the way. Unless we all want to be speaking Mandarin in 10 years because some other country wants to be us, we got to figure out if we're better together, which means management and the worker has to see their role in alignment. Yeah. And as Ed said earlier, if the company does better, then the worker does better. You went about it differently than Ed, but to me, as magnificent. This lady, with all this pressure on her and all this stress and people giving her no solutions, just complaints, she comes out. Please tweet this. Please share. We spread bad news. I want you to spread some good news. This lady, first female CEO at UPS?
Yes. Yeah. First outsider. First outsider.
First outsider.
First outsider. Yeah.
Well, a cool haircut. And the shoes. And the shoes. This lady, who was a cool husband, by the way, I met her. Oh, this lady is paying her drivers $170,000 a year.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna leave Operation Hope and go do it myself.
We're having no trouble attracting people into the company. I'll say that.
Did you all hear what I just said? You're a UPS driver and you're making $170,000 a year. Give this lady some love.
Thank you.
That's right. Again, we complain when this company's not doing this and this company's not doing it. When somebody does it right, you should give them some encouragement.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And it's with benefits, it's bonuses. I mean, it's like benefits. It's like a package,
It's
right?
healthcare, it's pension. These are really great jobs. And it's just not our drivers. It's also our part-time workers. If you are a student in school and you come work for us for part-time, we will pay you $21 an hour. We will give you healthcare benefits. We will give you a pension and $25,000 of tuition reimbursement.
Wow.
I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that.
And the company didn't crater.
We didn't crater.
Didn't go out of business, right? It did, yes, there was a little bit of a drop in the annual profitability. I mean, like minor, as they had to take the charges. Anybody who's an accountant here knows you got to take the charges as it happens. But I'm convinced that the brand equity of the company, as a result of doing this, will increase. People will want to do business with UPS because UPS is reinvesting in its own community, and we're gonna catch these people stealing packages off the truck. We're gonna run them down ourselves. This is a personal commercial for me.
Well, and we're doing this with service levels that are better than anybody else with service levels that are better than anybody else in the industry. So I'm proud of that too, but it's a win-win-win, right?
Yeah.
If you invest in your people, they take care of your customers and everything else takes care of itself.
Yeah. I was about, looking at the time, about 20 years ago, Carol, I was walking in an inner city in South Central LA, and I was, I always wear a suit because we model what we see.
Yeah.
And there was a time when I, growing up, my father's generation, everybody wore suits and ladies wore dresses, and things have changed. But I think that they're going to change again. There's a whole other conversation. But I was walking down the street, and this brother was walking towards me, twice my size. This guy clearly owned the neighborhood and the culture of the neighborhood, and he wanted me to move.
Oh.
So he's walking down the street, I'm walking down the street, and I gladly moved over to the side, but he had his head down. I made sure, Carol, to look him in the eyes as we're passing by. I said, hey, man, what's up? He said, yo, man, what's up? And that was it.
Mm-hmm.
That was respect. He passes by me. I keep going. There's 3 guys now sitting next to a car staring at me. Yo, man, what you doing in our neighborhood? You look kind of fancy, man. We want what you got. They're about to rob me. Try to rob me. They don't know I'm from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to be quite
not
so
gonna happen,
easy.
right.
Don't let the suit fool you. And the guy, who unfortunately I didn't meet, I don't know his name, he turns around, Carol, and he says, yo, man, leave him alone. He's with me.
Oh, how about that?
They're like, yo, they did this. And I was golden for the whole time. I was looking at a property I wanted to buy. All he wanted was respect. And he didn't have it in the suites. He had it in the streets.
Yeah.
But he controlled that neighborhood. And all I did, it was so easy, it was so simple, but people don't do it. All I did was acknowledge him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just looked up at him. Hey, man, what's up? And he acknowledged me back, and that was enough to save my life potentially.
Yeah.
For him to turn around and give me cover. Hey, y'all, he's with me. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
This is what you've done at a corporate scale.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, it's from thank you. I think it's.
And so when I say, I was joking, I'm serious. We've been seeing these social media, people stealing all, we know Pookie and them. We know Pookie and we know who's stealing. Hey, knock it off.
Yeah, please.
I've seen now communities are like, they're standing in front of the stores. You're not coming to our stores and doing this. This is our neighborhood.
Yeah, don't come in.
And now it's our UPS.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you.
So, look, we're better together.
We are.
We're going to win together.
We will.
And you have shown through not only your actions, but your hiring choices, your management team, how you lead, what your values are. And I thank you for that.
Well, no, thank you for that. This is why we so much enjoy working with you, because I think our values are aligned. We are a company that stands for integrity and doing the right thing. We respect all people. And as a result, we are better because of that. And the industry is changing. The world is changing around us, right? But we're better because of that. Our purpose is moving our world forward by delivering what matters. And I love that so much because you can unpack it in so many different ways. It's not just about moving goods, it's about doing good too.
Yeah. Oh, ooh. You might qualify as a rapper.
Oh, wouldn't that be fun?
And I was pleased to meet your husband, who hails from a diverse background in Latin America, and
yeah, he does.
And
a naturalized citizen who loves this country, and together we are committed to trying to make it better.
You just never know people's story.
I know it.
You know.
I know it.
And I wanted people to know you not only just as a leader, but as a human being.
Thank you.
And it is so difficult sitting in that seat. And no good deed shall go unpunished. But I'll tell you, $170,000 a year for somebody who might have a high school education,
right?
But there's no limit to their hustle, to their integrity, to their intelligence, to their strengths. As Michael Milken and President Clinton have said together to me, this country, this world has equally distributed intelligence, just not opportunity.
Yeah.
What you have done is taken a situation that might have been viewed as a problem and turned it into an opportunity for everybody. You move rainbows out of storms. You cannot have a rainbow without a storm first. I literally believe you've set a standard for other companies to now look and say, okay, well, her business seems to have done well. She did this, and her stock is stabilized, and her shareholder value is up, and communities are rallying behind her and the company, and they continue to prosper. And maybe we can do that 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Is there anything that you want this audience to know about what's in your head right now, what's in your heart, what's in your spirit, where are you going from here and how can we help you get there?
Yeah, it's an interesting time for logistics. It's an interesting time for global trade, right? There are a lot of challenges around the world, and as geopolitical tensions continue to rise, trade lanes are shifting. So we've got to change our business. We do. We have to go to where our customers are going, which means more and more businesses leaving China and going to other parts of the world. We've got to be agile here. We've got to change. And I think for all of us, wherever we are in our careers and our lives, agility is the name of the game.
Agility.
What brought to the party isn't going to take you to the next party. We really have to be agile.
You really are a rapper.
Well, maybe, I don't know. But this is sort of like my.
I'm trying to get T out to give you a contract.
Yeah, well. But agility is the name of the game. Agility is the name of the game. And so that's what I would encourage everybody to talk about when you're talking in your respective businesses and organizations and with your teams and your people. How do we become more agile?
More agile.
How do we think, look around corners? Because the rate of change is accelerating. And then the advent of generative AI and technology that is eating the world. What are we going to do to take advantage of that and not be afraid of it? For me, it's about creating an opportunity to upskill people, teach them trades that maybe they never thought they would do. Because right now, if you have a digital co-pilot sitting with you, you can write any code. It's just a language.
Yeah.
So imagine what we can do for people from a job perspective. Technology shouldn't scare us. It should excite us about what we can do and how we can lean into it, because we're going to lean into it in a big way. I have seen robots unloading trailers and loading trailers. I'm like, all right, I like that. Robots don't get sick. They don't call out, right?
No attitude.
They don't have an attitude.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, I like the robots. But how do I bring the robots in but not destroy the jobs?
That's
Got to
right.
create opportunities.
Have people monitoring the robots.
Exactly.
Repairing the robots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Having the technology skills to do just that. So we are opening up our tech university, which traditionally was just for our IT folks.
Yeah.
We're opening it up to all UPSers. If you got a propensity, you want to learn how to code, we're going to teach you how.
So you're going to teach your existing.
We are, absolutely. We're going to teach you how. And I think that's part of what we have to do.
So you're teaching, and this is so important, it hits on something else that there's a real problem in this country. You're teaching current workers the skills of the next generation of jobs.
Yes.
So what happened in the Industrial Revolution is you had this generation of high school educated people, and in this particular case, it was high school educated white people who had you could get a factory job that paid you a living wage. You had a house, you had a pickup truck, and you had a boat, and then you had a middle class life. And then the Industrial Revolution just walked away from them, and we didn't retrain them, and we left them alone for 70 years. And they're frustrated, and now in my opinion, they're rioting at the ballot box. They're upset that no one's paid attention to them, and they should be upset.
They should be.
And what you have done is you've said, I don't want frustrated workers. I don't want ex-workers. I want new workers for the new generation.
Exactly.
So you're stealing them up.
Yeah, that's the future of our country. And if we all did this, imagine what could happen. Imagine.
So is this your case for optimism?
This is just one case for optimism, but it's there are lots of reasons for optimism.
You're positive.
I am positive.
And last thing I'll say, and we're out of time, but a logistics company, people just see the delivery function. A logistics company, first of all, you're one of the largest airlines in the world.
We are.
We are what?
One of the largest
You're
airlines.
one of the largest, okay. I want to make sure I got it right.
Yes, you got it right.
And
by the way, I hate to fly, so isn't that ironic? Our pilots are like, "Why don't you fly with me?" I'm like, "Oh no," but they're good.
So you could actually jump on a UPS plane and go anywhere in the world.
I could jump seat. Yeah, I could jump seat.
Which is the seat they put behind the
pilots.
Behind the
pilots, because there's a whole bunch of cargo in the plane.
And so when something's going on in the world, really you guys know before the Department of Commerce.
We do.
You got your hand logistically on
every
the
minute,
pulse
every minute of every
trade,
day.
So you see the numbers like decreasing in, let's say, China, increasing in Vietnam, all this stuff. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. And we're investing in new technology to lean into what's happening in biopharmaceuticals, which is so very exciting. When you think about new treatments that are coming up for cancer and all these horrible diseases that many of us have family members, or even perhaps we have suffered from. With cold chain logistics, we can get this medicine to the patient. So we have a $10 billion healthcare business, which is powered by cold chain logistics. We manufacture the dry ice to go along with many of these medicines, yes, that are being transported around the world. When the COVID-19 vaccines came out a couple of years ago, we were the first to deliver those vaccines. We delivered over 1 billion vaccines at 99.9% efficiency, which means we never lost a vaccine. This is important, right?
Yes.
Because it's got to arrive cold and so it can go on your arm. And that's exciting when you think, so I'm optimistic because I see opportunities to continue to grow our company and create great jobs for people. That's a win-win-win.
I see entrepreneurship folding out of the rebirth, not the rebirth, the reimagination of some of the UPS business. And it really is speaking to what this afternoon, Sam Altman's going to be here.
Oh, good. Yeah, great.
And I see AI as a chance for you to reimagine parts of your business enterprise.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I know we're out of time, but I'll just share this one little data point with you. What's the number one question I get? Well, you don't know, but I'll tell you what the number one question I get is. That is, where is my package? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll be texting you on Christmas Eve. Carol,
where is it? But we're putting RFID tags on all of our packages. These are radio frequency tags, so we will now know every package where it is along the destination. How cool is that? And then with generative AI, I have 10,000 people in customer care centers around the world. They have to learn everything about our complicated logistics business. Well, now the bots can do this, right? The chat bots can do this, and we can have those people upskill and do different things. So that's a reimagination of an experience powered by technology. Very exciting. Very exciting.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Case for Optimism, and this is Carol Tomei.
Thank y'all.
Give her some love, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol and John. How about that for making the case for optimism? What can Brown do for you? What did she say? It's about moving goods. It's not about moving goods. It's about doing good. How about that? I love it. So that concludes our lunch program. I'm sure you're finished eating. Now we have those breakout sessions with the Idea Lab and that's all across the hall. And we'll see you back here for the afternoon session. Come back because I promise you, you don't want to miss it.